go, and now we're live. It's recording everything that's being said, like the NSA, sort of in a smaller form. Hi, how you doing? So what's your name?
Christina.
Christina. Okay, Christina. Christina. We know that you are here. Patrick.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, by the way, I am aware that this class starts at a time which is just so accommodating for those who work and have to go through traffic, right? So like if you get out at 5 o'clock and then you hit traffic and you don't, get here until 5:45 or something like that, I'm very understanding of that. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do today. We are going to discuss chapter 1, which is in the book and sort of introduces you to the Dreamweaver program. We're going to examine something called wireframes. Does anybody know what those are? Okay, well, I guess we're going to find out. No, you're not going to say anything. In fact, I'm cutting you off. Okay, we're going to show you a little HTML5 tutorial online that you can play with at home. And I'm actually going to start with number 4 here and then go back up to number 1. But those of you who signed that sheet last week that said you might have an interest in the Web Design Club, we're going to have our first meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock in this room, so it'll be right before this class, 5:10 actually. And I'll send everybody on that list an email, and we're going to start working on our own website and on other website projects. And if you know something about web design or know nothing at all, you can come to this meeting and we'll give you work at your level and help you with whatever it is you want.
I actually never got that list, so.
You never got on that list?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. Well, you're Dustin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got that. I'll put you on the list.
Okay.
All right. And so then at the end of the class, I'll give you this second part, which is the assignment. Okay, so we're going to discuss chapter 1. And before we do, though, John was going to remind me about the whole used book thing, right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is an unfortunate fact. So if you buy this book and then you tear this little thing out, you get an access code and you can download the files, the lesson files that you use in these chapters, right? However, unfortunately, if you buy a used copy of this book, somebody has already logged in and downloaded the files, and now you can't download them because it'll say they've already been downloaded, right? Now, if that's the case, you're SOL. No, I'm just kidding. You can get the files from me, okay? I will download them, give them to you on a flash drive, bring in a flash drive, and I'll give them to you, and then you can use them, all right? Has anybody besides John had that problem so far? No? Okay. If you do have that problem, let me know. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start out with today is, in order to use the Dreamweaver program here in this classroom, there's some things you need to know about the specifics of this strange setup that we have here. Now, I can't recall because I teach 4 different classes. Did we make folders on these computers last week? We did not. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. So what I need you to do is go to the Windows button in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. It's not going to be on this screen, by the way, because this is a Mac. I do all my lessons, my lectures using my Mac laptop, not the PC here. And it used to be I could just press a button and go back and forth, but now I have to get IT certification to be able to do that. So unfortunately, not going to do that. So anyway, click on your Windows button, and then on the screen that pops up, click on Computer on the right-hand side. And then you're going to see a screen that shows you all of the different hard drives you can access, right? So double-click on the one on the right that's called User Files. Okay? Now, on this, you're going to see a list of folders. And what I want you to do is go up to the top of that list, the little menu bar at the top, and click on the button that says New Folder. And then I would like you to it's going to create a folder, and I would like you to name it something like your name and then DAR256. Oh, and then there's that. Oh, that's it. You're my people. Okay. Is there questions? If you have a question, raise a hand or something. So anyway, DAR256 G Lameau, which is Greg Lameau, that's what I'd name mine. And then you're going to have this fancy little folder here, which is where you will store all of your website files that you work on in this class. Do you need me to go through that again? The order? I'd be happy to. When it loads up? Okay, no problem. Okay, just raise your hand when that's done. Okay, so everybody's got a folder, right? Okay, great. So now let me explain what the deal is with Dreamweaver. This classroom has been through many permutations. It used to be a fast food joint. Just kidding. Okay, it used to be a Macintosh lab, and then it became a PC lab. And it used to be the case that you could save files on the desktop, and you could load in programs and do anything you want. Well, that became kind of a nightmare because all the computers got infected with viruses. So they installed this software in this classroom called, I think it's called Deep Freeze or something like that. And what it does is every night it throws away everything that's on the desktop and all of the preference files for all the programs. Now, who can tell me what that means in respects to you guys using Dreamweaver? Yes, Dustin.
That pretty much means if you have preferences saved for Dreamweaver,
Right.
it'll delete your preferences if
Correct.
you don't have them saved into your
Correct,
file.
right. So what that means is anywhere else in the world that you go to use Dreamweaver, after you've installed it and you tell Dreamweaver, hey, this is the folder where I want to save all my website files, it will, every time you open it, it will open that folder and it will show you all your files, right? In this lab, that's not the case. Every time you open it, it's like the first time you ever opened it and it doesn't know where the heck your files are. So what we're going to do tonight is we're actually going to take Dreamweaver and we're going to make a special file and we're going to save it in that folder that you just made. And that file is basically going to be your preferences file. And then when you come in to take class, all you'll do is you'll open up Dreamweaver and you'll load in that preferences file. And for that class, it's going to know where to save your stuff, to save it in that folder that you made, right? So unfortunately, every time you come to class, you're going to do that. It takes like 2 seconds. But that's the process in this lab. Okay? So, yes, question?
Is it preference file cross-spectrum?
No, it's specific to this computer because it basically tells you where on this computer your folder is.
So if you were to copy that file and take it home and open up your computer, would get the same purpose?
It wouldn't work, no. If you, and it's a good question, I'm glad you asked it. So, the logical question is, okay, if that's the way we have to set things up in this classroom, what do we do at home, right? Well, like I said a little earlier, this is probably the only place in the universe you're going to have to do this song and dance to get to Dreamweaver, right? When you go home and you install Dreamweaver on your computer, and then you create a folder on the desktop, and you say, hey, Dreamweaver, this is where I'm going to store all my files, it knows that, and it stays that way forever. So in other words, the weird little dance you have to do in here, you don't have to do other places. Okay, so now everybody's got a folder, right? So now what I would like you to do is open up the Dreamweaver program. And you do that by clicking on the Windows button down in the lower left corner. And then you click on the All Programs button at the very bottom. And then you scroll down until you see Adobe Dreamweaver CC. And you open that bad boy up. And when you open it, you'll get some, here I'm going to close mine and reopen it so I can see the same thing that you see. And once again, this is a little Macintosh here, and you guys are using a PC, but they look pretty much the same. Okay, so this is what you're going to see when you open Dreamweaver. You're going to see this little welcome screen. I think they should call it an unwelcome screen because I never want to see this thing, okay? And so you click on the little red button in the top left corner. Is it that on a PC? Or it doesn't have one. Okay, so what you do on yours is where it says Create New. I'm sorry, let me open mine again. This is the only problem with using the Mac versus the PC. Okay, so what you do to get rid of that little screen is right in the center of this where it says Create New, click on HTML. And that will go away, and you will get a screen that looks like this. You guys have this right in front of you, so if there's a case where you can't see something, hopefully you can see it there. What I'm going to do, though, to make this a little more usable for you is I'm going to go into my fonts, and I'm going to make these deadly large. Yes, you can actually read them. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do, and by the way, if you have any problem during any part of this class, like something's not working, so feel free to raise your hand. I'll try and help you out. Okay. One more interruption here before we get into this. I just want to remind you guys of the format of the class because I think it'll help. What I do is I try to discuss these first set of topics with you for about 45 minutes till about a quarter after, and then I give you a 5-10 minute break. And then we talk for about another 40-45 minutes, and then it's lab time to work on stuff. So just so you know, that's the pace of the class, so you'll know that you're getting breaks and things like that. Okay, so let's do a quick drive-by tour of the Dreamweaver program. Now, Dreamweaver is an excellent program. It's probably one of the most popular programs, or the most popular program for creating what are called static websites. What do I mean by a static website? Is that one that your socks will stick to when they come out of the dryer? What is a static website? You can't say anything, pretty much ever. You can't even smile.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, don't do that. Okay. John, what's a static website? Site that's just there. It's not moving. It's like a mime. It's just hanging out, right? Not saying anything. Okay, so a static website is a website that's just there. It's boring. It's not doing anything, right? What if we wanted to create a dynamic website? What would be the difference between a static website and a dynamic website?
It moves.
It moves, right. So how does a dynamic website move? Well, I mean, what is the moving part of it?
You've got your advertisement, your other. I know what I want to say, but it's just not coming.
Okay, can I help fill
Yeah.
it in? Okay, so the difference between a static website, like the kind you can create in Dreamweaver, and John gave a great explanation, it's just there. It's almost like a graphic design. It just sits there, right? And a dynamic website is that a dynamic website actually has programming in it that will go out to a database and grab information and format that on the page, right? So a dynamic website is much more interactive. On a dynamic website, you can have a drop-down menu that says, click which picture you would like to see of the Taj Mahal. And then you click that, and then all of a sudden it goes to the database and it brings up the selected picture of the Taj Mahal. That's an interactive site. That's a dynamic site. It's moving. It's going out to the database, and it's getting information and bringing it back. Dreamweaver is the premier program for creating static sites. What is the premier program for creating dynamic sites?
WordPress.
WordPress. Dreamweaver is a program we're studying in the first half of this class, and WordPress is what we're studying in the second half. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and do the drive-by of the Dreamweaver interface. And by drive-by, I just mean we sort of give a quick overview, right? At the top of your screen, you're going to see the drop-down menus that you'd be familiar with from most Adobe products, if not all computer software in general. You've got your file, open, close, save as. You've got your edit, cut, copy, paste, and so on and so forth. You're going to see that these other drop-downs are going to be used for very specific tasks, which we'll get to as we go through the semester. A couple things I want to point out here. The window drop-down is the one that allows you to open up what are called the palettes, which are these devices over here. Right now I'm seeing two insert and files, and you can see that the files one has a check mark by it here, which means it's showing up. Also the properties, which is this long panel at the bottom, has a check mark by it, and the insert panel, which is, it's not marked off right there, but it is showing up over in that tab. Now, if you want a new panel to show up, like for example, let's go down here and let's click on this thing called History, okay? Then you get a new panel that shows up right in the middle of your screen, and now if you click on the window drop down, you see that History has a check mark next to it, which means that it's visible, right? If you wanted to get rid of that, you would just go under Windows, you could click on it again, and it disappears, right? Another way to get rid of it is to click on the little tiny super micro X in the top left corner. That gets rid of it, right?
Mac,
And then to bring it back again, on the Mac, what is it on the PC?
right?
On the right, okay. And then here's the third way to get rid of it. You simply just hold your hand like this and you can't see it. Okay, now if you want to take it and dock it with the other panels, you simply click on the top part of it, this little bar here, and you drag it over into this dock area here, and you drag it up, and of course it's not working on mine. Let me click on the tab that says History, and drag that over, and drag it up to the top of your dock here until you see a little blue line appear. And then it will slap into that dock there, and now you've got this lovely little panel. Now if you want to close it over here, you click on the icon on the right, and you can either close that single tab, this is what's referred to as a tab, or if you wanted to close the tab group, it would close all the tabs that were open. So I'll just hit close tab group, and that'll get rid of it over here. Okay. Okay, so there's a variety of panels in here that we'll look at as we're using the program. Right now we're just doing the drive-by. Over here on the right-hand side, we have what is arguably our most important menu, which is the Files menu. This is going to show us all the website files that we're currently working on. If you click on the little tab to the left of that, it's called the Insert tab. This is also a very important tab. This Insert tab has a drop-down menu that lets you bring up different menus of items that are available here. If you click, if you notice right now, the Insert tab is set on structure, and these are HTML structural elements that can be used to make a web page. If you click on the drop-down menu, you can see that there's all of these other things that we can make. Like if you click on Common, you'll see that these are the most commonly used elements, like inserting a table or an image. Or, for example, if you click on the drop-down again and click on Form, you're going to see these are all elements that can be used for a form. Now, what's nice about Dreamweaver, it's been around so long, and there's so many people that have worked on it, that they've taken a lot of these mundane tasks and broken them down into little tiny pieces of work where you can just simply click on something and it will appear on your screen, right? So it writes the code for you. That's what people love so much about Dreamweaver, is they've really thought this stuff through. Let's go ahead and take that drop down and take it back to structure. So we have our basic setup there. Now just two other things I want to talk about in this layout, in the quick drive-by tour. Up at the very top, you see the word compact, and you click on that. And notice that you have these different choices: compact, expanded, new workspace, manage workspaces. Your workspace is the way that your little panels here are laid out. And you can basically, we're not going to do this, but you could choose new workspace, and you could move everything around, and then you could hit save it. You could give it a name like Greg's Workspace, and then you could load that in every time you use Dreamweaver, and that would be a very customized thing for you. But we're just going to use this compact one because it works so well for our purposes. Now, the last things I want to mention here are at the bottom, the Properties box, okay, which is this long skinny dude down here, and this the properties down here change according to whatever you're doing on the screen. So for example, if I'm doing text, it's going to give me certain properties down here, but if I have an image that I'm working with, it's going to give me properties down here that deal with an image. Like for example, scaling or rotating would be something you would use with an image, but with text, you might want to bold or italicize the text. Okay, and finally we have the main screen here. This is your actual website, and you can change the view that you're looking at this in. You guys are probably in split screen. If you look at the top left corner, there's a button called Split, which splits your screen in half like that. You can also choose the button to the left of that, which is just code, or you can choose the button to the right of that, which is just design, which shows you basically what's called the front end of the website, which is what users see. And then the back, the code, is what's called the back end of the website, and the split screen shows you both. For example, go ahead and click on the split screen button. Take your mouse and click it over into the right-hand side, into the right pane, and type a word. Okay? Notice that whatever word you type there also appears over here in the code on the left-hand side. So the way to think about this is the front door of the website. This is what the public sees.
Oh.
This is the behind the scenes. This is behind the curtain, right? This is what all the work people are doing back there to make the performance. This is where all the wires are exposed and the ropes and the duct tape, right? So this is the coding that is used to format the page, which is displayed as this. Okay? Now, when we discuss HTML5, which is probably what we'll do after the break, we're going to talk about these elements of code, which I think we very briefly touched on last week, but we're going to talk about what they are and what they do. But before we do that, what I would like to do is what I said we'd do earlier, which is save a little preferences file that you can load in every time that you start Dreamweaver. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go, the way that Dreamweaver works on your machines at home is you load up the program, you create a folder, and then you create something called a site, which is like a general website. And you save that site inside that folder, and from then on, Dreamweaver knows that all sites save in that folder. We're going to do the same thing here, but like I said, we're going to create a new site. We're going to create a preference file and put it in that folder, and then every time you come in, you're going to have to load that in. So let's go up to the top, and let's click on the Site drop-down menu, and let's click on the button called, or the choice New Site. Okay, now for site name, let's call this My Websites. And you can make it all one word. You can put an underscore in between it. You can put a dash in between it or whatever. I just wrote My_Websites. This is just the name for you to know what this is. Now, in order to know where this is supposed to go, you have to click on the little folder on the right-hand side. It says Browse Folder. And then it's going to bring up a screen, right? Now I'm going to look on your computer, somebody's computer here to see what they see. Okay? Oh, I got it. Okay, yours. We're almost on yours. Okay, so click on that folder. Okay, and now what you're going to do, oh, you're right there. So now what you're going to do is click on Computer on the left-hand side. And then when it brings up the hard drives, double-click on User Files. Then find your folder and double-click on that. And then click Select Folder. Now when you do that, it's going to bring up a, it's going to bring you back to that original screen, but there's going to be a little path that's going to show you where you select it. So, for example, I just made a folder. I call it DAR256G Lamo, and I click Choose. And now what it shows on my screen, it's impossible to read, but basically it shows the path to that folder. So all you guys should have something that says something like E /, and then the name of your folder, right? Okay, good. So you've done that correctly. So now simply hit the Save button. Okay, so now Dreamweaver knows where it's supposed to go to look for websites. However, we still have to export the preferences file. So now let's go into the Site drop-down menu again. And this time let's choose Manage Sites, which is the third option. Okay? And then, you know, I have a bunch of websites on my computer, so you're seeing a bunch of things, but for you guys, there should just be one, and it should be selected. It's My Websites, right? Now, what you want to do is you want to go down to the bottom left corner of this screen, and you want to look for the fourth icon in. It's the most right icon in this left corner. It looks like a folder with a little arrow on it. I want you to click on that. That's the export function, so we can export these preferences. So it says export the currently selected sites. Click on that. And then what you want to do is, if it doesn't take you immediately there, you want to navigate to the folder that you made. Is it taking you immediately there, or do you have to navigate?
Navigate.
Okay, so then click on Computer on the left-hand side, then double-click on User Files, then double-click on the name of your folder. Now, once you find your folder, it should automatically save this as mywebsites.ste. So just hit Save. And then when it brings you back to the screen that we saw before, just hit Done. Now, if you've done all that, go over to the right-hand side of your screen where it says Files, and underneath that Files tab, about 2 rows down, there is an icon that looks like a circle with an arrow on the end of it. That's the refresh. Go ahead and click on that. And tell me if you see a little file in there called mywebsites.ste. Do you guys see that?
Where? Refresh?
Okay,
Oh, local file?
in local files.
Should I hit up?
You should be in local files, yeah. Switch over if you're not.
Oh,
Okay, so you have successfully saved your preferences, right? Okay, so let me show you what's going to happen when you come into this lab next time, right? Because next time you open up Dreamweaver, it's not going to show anything. So what I'm going to do, actually I'd like all you guys to do this too. Hopefully it won't. Let's see. Actually, I'm just going to have one person do this. Can you do me a favor? So go ahead and quit Dreamweaver. Just go under File, here, Exit. Say, no, just cancel. Just File, Exit, and then No. Okay, now click on this. I'm just going to see, I think it all programs. I think it click on Dreamweaver again right there. I think it remembers the first time. Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's not going to do us any good. Okay, unfortunately, because it's not tonight at midnight, it's going to throw away all your preferences. If I had you guys quit right now and start, it would find your folder. But if I had you come in tomorrow and start up Dreamweaver, it would not. Okay? So unfortunately, I can't show you on yours, but I can show you on mine what will happen. Okay? So when you come in next week and you start up Dreamweaver, what's going to happen is over here you're not going to see anything. Over here in the Files menu, it's not going to show you anything. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to Site, Manage Sites, right? And this time, instead of the Export button, you're simply going to click on the word Import Sites, right? You're going to navigate to your folder. You're going to click on that My Website STE and hit Open, and then hit Done. And then suddenly it will show you your preference file over there and any files that you've stored in there. Okay? Now we will go over that next time, and we'll go over it the next few classes, just so you know. In fact, I always just mention it at every class, right? And of course, it's on this video. But that is the process that you will use to get started up with Dreamweaver when you come into class.
So at home, when we're working, we save our files under this, and then we come in and load them up through there.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the deal is that because we're in such a weird setup here at the lab, the way that things are at home on your home computer is going to be a little different. When you go home and you do this process where you create a new site and you save it in a folder, it's always going to work when you open it, right? However, if you want to take your files and shuttle them back and forth between home and here, all you have to do is take the files that are in that folder at home, put them on a flash drive or a hard drive, bring them into this class, stick that into your computer, and copy those files over into that folder you made today. Like mine's called DAR 256GLMO, right? You just copy them in there, then you start up Dreamweaver, import your site file, and it will see all your files. Okay? I know, and I apologize, but it's just, you know, the thing they had to do to keep this lab safe from viruses. Okay, other questions or comments? No. Okay, you guys take a 10-minute break. Okay. So as far as discussing Chapter 1 goes, I think I'm actually going to pass on discussing Chapter 1 because Chapter 1 is essentially the Dreamweaver interface, which I just gave you the drive-by. This is a more detailed version of it. I would like you to, if you haven't already, just go through Chapter 1. All it does is take you on a little detailed tour of Dreamweaver, show you more detail of the panels and all that kind of stuff. So please do that if you haven't, and you'll get some good stuff out of that. So we're going to move on here to number 2, which is examining wireframes. Okay, so I'm going to click on this little link here, examining wireframes, and we're going to go to this website, A Beginner's Guide to Wireframing. And wireframing is essentially making a sketch of a website before you actually build it. So what's it very similar to in terms of like an animation project? Storyboarding, okay? Storyboarding is where you take and make a little thumbnail sketch of something before you do a full animation or an illustration, right? So this is an example of a wireframed web page. So what they've done is they've taken,
What's the link in it?
well, if you go to, are you on our class website? It's pima.dreamco.com. Are you there? Okay. So go there, and then once you get there, you click on DAR 252 Interactive Design on the left side. And by the way, everything that I teach this class is on this website.
Isn't it 256?
And I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah.
That was a class
Yeah.
before, it's 256.
DAR 256. Let's just say it's a long day. Okay, and then you should be at this post, which is the latest one, and then number 2 choice should be wireframes. Are you there? You're there? Okay, great. You're on the wireframe page. Okay, so this is a wireframe, and it's the most simple of all possible wireframes. It's a box telling you there's a header. It's a box telling you this is the body of the web page, and it's a box telling you there's the footer, right? Now, this crazy web page, it's really long, and as you go down it, they take it from this thing to some gorgeous, 5-star website, right? Which we're not going to do at this point. We're just talking about wireframes. But you can see as you scroll down that they make it more complex. This shows you an example of a drop-down menu. Down in the next screen, they tell you can go to this website. I love wireframes for inspiration. And then they start blocking out the sections and describing what's in them. And this is wireframing to the nth degree, right? We're not going to do all this. I'll show you what we're going to do. If you go back to our website and down where it says assignment, and it says here's an example template, okay, we're going to do something a little more simple like this for our first wireframing, right? So what I'm going to ask you guys to do as part of your assignment is to make a file in a program like Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever you're comfortable with and create a wireframe, which would basically be a sectional website, a graphic that takes your website and breaks it down into sections, and then just indicate in there with some text or something what's going to go in these sections. So for example, you could say, logo goes here, picture of cat eating small rodent goes here, text saying wild rodents should be genetically altered to be faster so they can escape cats goes here, menu here, copyright here, right? So come up with an idea for sort of a generic website design, something, it might be something you want to work on this semester, it might be a personal portfolio project, or it might be a website you want to build for somebody else. We're going to develop this website throughout the semester, so come up with an idea that you like and make a little Photoshop document that is a mock-up of the home page of that, like this, but with a little more detail. Okay, so that's going to be part of your assignment. That's assignment 1A. It's the first half of assignment 1. And that's going to be due next week. In addition to that, I'm going to ask you guys to read chapter 2 in the book and to do any exercises in there for next week.
Do we turn in the exercises or just?
No, what you're going to do, what I'd like you to do is take your exercises and drop the folder that has your finished lesson in that folder that you made on this. And I'm going to walk around throughout the semester and just mark off, check and see that you guys are staying up on the lessons. Okay, so let's go back to our main page here, and let's click on where it says, the third choice here, which says do this online tutorial for HTML5. Let's click on that HTML5, and that's going to take us over to an incredibly valuable free resource for you folks. It's called W3 Schools. The W3 is for the WWW, 3 W's, right? And what this is it's a website that just has, metric tons of tutorials that are completely free for all aspects of web design, right? Now we happen to be in the HTML5 tutorial. And the reason we're here is because if you remember when we were back in Dreamweaver, And it showed you, when you made a page, it showed you just some really basic code here, some of which we talked about briefly last week. But I said that we would go to this tutorial and we would go into greater depth about what these little pieces of code are, and that's why we're here. And the great thing about this is it's online, it's free, you can access it at any time, right? So let me go ahead and make my website a little bigger so that we can actually see this code and talk about it, right? So the way this works is they'll show you a bit of code here. If you click on the Try It Yourself button, it will open a new window and it will show you this code formatted as a web page. Remember the whole two-pane thing that we saw in Dreamweaver? Well, it does the same thing here. It will format it where it shows you the code over here, the back end of the website, and the front end of the website there, just like Dreamweaver. So if at any time you want to change some code and then hit Try It Yourself, you can do that. Now the way the tutorial works is it talks a little bit about what you're doing. It has you do something. You can try it out. It gives some more explanation below. And then up at the top right, there is a link which says Next Chapter. And that's how you go to the next section, right? Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll just take a quick look at this thing and see, that there's just this much text here. If you do the Try It Yourself, you see this thing, which shows you the results of this work, right? And so now what we're going to do is, they don't really do any explaining until the next chapter. So let's scroll up and click on the green Next Chapter link in the upper right corner. And then here, they explain the code. And we're going to talk about that. So we'll start at the top. In an HTML5 web page, the very first information that you have up there is something called the doc type declaration. The doc type declaration is simply telling you what type of document this is. This document is an HTML5 document. So this code here simply says doc type HTML. And the computers that read that know this is an HTML5 document because of this statement here. So then they'll treat it that way and they'll render it that way and it will appear the way you want it to appear. Now just as a refresher from last week, I think we talked briefly about these little things right here, which are referred to as angle brackets, okay? So these are angle brackets. This is what I refer to as a begin angle bracket or a left angle bracket, and the other one is a closing or an ending or a right angle bracket, right? Two angle brackets together with some content in them are referred to as what? A tag. Okay? And we talked very briefly last week about the fact that HTML is a structural language that's composed of all of these little tags that, when taken together, produce a web page. It's what's called a formatting language or a markup language, which uses these elements to display the content, which is what's between the tags, in the manner that the tags dictate, right? So at the top we have the doc type tag, which is, there's only a single one of those at the beginning. It simply says, hey, I'm on HTML5 web page. Computer says, cool, I know how to deal with that. Next, we get a tag called HTML, which, what do you think that tag's doing? What does it tell the computer? Blank starts here. What's the blank? HTML. In other words, this is an HTML document, and it starts right here. This is where your HTML code begins, okay? Where does your HTML code end on this document? Right here. So this is the HTML tag again, but what's different about it? The slash. What does the slash mean? It means end, okay? So tags in HTML have a beginning tag and an ending tag. For example, the HTML is the beginning tag. It's up at the top of the document. And the /HTML is the ending tag, and it's the end of the document. So it says Here comes an HTML web page. Here's where it starts. Here's where it ends. Done. Now everything in between the begin HTML and the end HTML tags is your web page, and that's what gets formatted on the computer. Now, your HTML web page is composed of two sections. So after you start your HTML, there's two sections on the web page. Now they're only displaying one here, but if I go back to Dreamweaver, we can see both of them. Okay, what's different? What is the section that's here that is not, yeah, it's the head. Okay, so if we go here and then we toggle back here, you see that we have doc type HTML, which starts that we have HTML, and then we have body, some other tags, end body, end HTML. But if we go back to a basic Dreamweaver page, we have doc type, we have HTML, and then we have this section called head. Then we have body, and then we have HTML, right? So, and the tutorial is taking us through one step at a time, so eventually they'll get to the head section. But the head section, which starts here with begin head and ends here with end head, this section is information for the computer only. It's almost like a bibliography or a credits copyright page in a book, right? When you open a book, you don't go immediately to the copyright page to see what year it was published and who they stole all those ideas from, right? You just go right to, the introduction and start reading. Well, the computer goes straight to the head section, and there's information in here that it needs. There's the name of the web page. There's any keywords or description for your web page, which are important for search engines. There is something called the character set, which, what is a character? When we're talking about a language, what is a character?
A letter.
A letter. A letter is a character, right? A character set would be a set of letters. What's another word for a set of letters? Alphabet, right? We happen to be using Latin-based English, or at least I am. But I've heard there's other languages. So there are other character sets, right? For example, there's a character set for Chinese. There's a character set for Russian. There's a character set for every language that is practiced on the internet. So when you go into Dreamweaver and you make a new page, you can choose from a whole list of character sets, and your web page will be formatted for that language, right? This version of Dreamweaver, which is sold in America and Great Britain, I'm sure, defaults to UTF-8, which is Latin-based English, and it also supports something called special characters. What is an example of a special character?
The @ sign.
Yes, the @ symbol, an E with an accent, an umlaut. I don't know if umlauts go overuse. But any sort of unusual little character, those upside down exclamation points, the little squiggle marks, whatever they are. So this is just a wide-ranging character set that covers English and all the letters that we stole from everybody else. Okay, so we know that there's two sections to a web page. The head section, which just gives information to the computer, and the body section, and the body is the meat and potatoes of the website. In effect, all of this other code here, it's kind of like you go to a party and there's 6 people there, right? But you only know one. And so you go straight up to the person you know and you go, "Hi, how are you doing?" And they tell you their story, right? So all this other stuff here is the other 5 people at the party, and the only one you know is this one here called body, right? Anything that you put in between the body tags, like for example, when you went over here and you typed a word, where did it appear? It appeared right here in the body tag, okay? And that's what shows up on the page. So it's kind of like when Celine Dion goes on and does her show, right, at Vegas, and you're there in the front row because you paid $600 to get that seat, right? You're sitting there with your popcorn, you're like, "Celine, oh my God." And she's up there and there's a spotlight on her, and she's singing, and the stage is black, and there's 1,000 people in the audience, and you're like, "Wow, it's amazing that that woman alone can put on that show," right? But there's 100 people helping her put on that show. There's a lot of code doing the heavy lifting to show you just this one word or to show you whatever content is appearing on your website, right? So the thing to know is despite all the other code, it's only what appears between the body tags that ends up on your website. Okay, so going back to our fun HTML5 tutorial, here's some more explanation. It says the text between HTML and end HTML tag describes the web page for the computer, right? The text between body and end body tag is the visible page content, like we just said, right? Now, in between the begin body and the end body tag, you can have all kinds of crazy other tags that are used for formatting. In this case, we see a couple of different tags. We see one called an H1 tag. And inside that is something called the content. It says my first heading. So we can determine from that that an H1 tag must be a heading tag. And a heading tag is a tag that simply displays your text larger than anything else as a heading would, right? So a begin H1 tag, / or end H1 tag, and everything in between there looks large and in charge, right? Like that. My first heading, look how much larger it is because of the H1 tag, right? Now the other tag that we see here is a P tag, and we get by this content in here that this is a paragraph tag, and here's the ending P. And if we go look at how that is formatted, we see that the paragraph automatically gets space put above it, and if we made another paragraph, we'd see that it gets space below it too. Okay, so putting an H1 tag around content makes it a heading tag. Putting P's around content creates a paragraph with space above and below it. Okay, that's making sense to me so far. How about you guys? Okay, let's go to the next chapter by clicking on that green link. Okay. And let's click on next chapter again, because this page is just telling us how we can do HTML. And let's go to this next page, which is called HTML headings, right? And this is showing you, it says there's an H1 tag, this is a heading, H2 tag, this is a heading, this is a heading, right? If we click on the Try It Yourself button, what do we see? Right? So we see a set of 6 different tags, H1 through H6. And what is the difference? It is getting smaller. Okay? So what do we know about this? We know that if you use an H1 tag, you're going to get giant text. We know that if you use an H6 tag, you're going to get mini text. Right? Where is an example where you might use an H6 tag on a website? What's that? Maybe the footer of the copyright area. Correct, because it can be small. It just has to be on there. Where's an example where you would use an H1 tag?
The top.
At the top, right? Where you have your big headline, welcome to Kitty Tossers Inc. or whatever, right? And then all these other headlines might be subheads below that, right? Now, in addition to displaying your text progressively larger or smaller, these H6 H tags serve another purpose, which has to do with finding your website. So you may know what that might be. Who should I pick on? Well, okay, and this comes down to whose name I know. So you'd be glad that I don't know your name. Ben, I know your name. Ben, why would you put, if you were selling Volvos, well, first of all, I would come see you and say, what can you get for me in a Volvo? But if you were selling Volvos and you had a headline, special on red Volvos, what tag would you put it in?
Probably one.
The H1, right? Okay. So in addition to the fact that it would be large on your web page, there is a second benefit to it. The benefit is that when search engines read your web pages, they give weight. They give more weight to content that is in the H1 tag than the content that's in an H6 tag. And that is for the purpose of search engine optimization, which is how people find your website. So in other words, if Ben was making this web page because he's going to sell these Volvos, special on red Volvos. So somebody goes onto Google and they type looking for red Volvo. Boom, it finds this page, it says H1 tag has red Volvo in it. That's important. Let's throw this red Volvo term up to the top of the search engine, right? Well, I'm not as fortunate as Ben. in my web design. So I go and I put my red Volvo for sale in an H6 tag, and when somebody types that in, they don't find my site. Because according to me, it's not important, and so Google doesn't give it weight, and they don't find me, they find Ben, and they buy it from him. Okay? So when you make a web page, it's important that you use an H1 tag on it and that you only use one H1 tag on that particular page, because Google is going to weight that heavily. But if you start making several H1 tags, it's going to get confused and it's going to water down your search functionality, right? So that is the other benefit to the H1 tag. Okay, now this tutorial is not very long. There's just a few pages of it, and it does do a really good job of explaining these HTML elements. So we're just going to go through a few more pages. Paragraphs we looked at already, so we don't have to look at those again. They stack up like this, and they basically make space between the lines. You can click try it yourself if you'd like to see that. Let's go ahead and click the next chapter, though. And let's look at these HTML elements that they're discussing here, right? So here they've broken down a few elements. Here's one we know, which is paragraph. This is the start or the beginning tag, which is the letter P, right? And then this is the end tag, which is the P with the forward slash, right? Now, there's another tag, which is referred to as an A tag, which is used for making a link, all right? Now, we can see the end tag here. That makes sense, forward slash A. And then we can see the A tag over here, but the A tag over here has some extra information in it. And so we have to understand what that is. The extra information is, because this is a link, the area inside the quotes is going to be the location of the web page you're linking to. And the href equals, href stands for href. All that means is this is where you go. Okay? So for example, let's go back into Dreamweaver. Let's, you guys still have a word there? Let's highlight that word over in the right-hand screen. And then let's come down to our properties box down at the bottom. And this might be hard for you guys to see on my screen. I guess it's not too hard. Click in that white box that says the word link before it. Okay? And type in http:// www. Now I have to think of something really. What's the most boring website in the world? Oh! I just walked into that. That's the first thing you said all day, and it was great. Do you see why I don't let him talk? He's a bad man. Okay, let's just do Amazon. www.amazon.com. See, I've made the mistake in the past of sending people to like Yahoo and CNN, and there's always some breaking, interesting story, and then I lose people, right? So put in http:// www.amazon.com, and then hit your enter button or your return button on your keyboard, and then click over here on the right-hand side of your screen. Now you'll notice that the code is now formatted exactly like the way we saw in the tutorial. There's an end A tag, which means that you've created a link. There's a beginning A tag, you can see the A there, and then there's href equals, which simply means your reference point, right? In other words, it's like a host, please go this way, the table by the window, right? Equals, quote, and then that's the full URL for the website, right? Now in addition to that, if you look over in the right-hand side of your screen, you see the word hello as blue and underlined, which is Dreamweaver's way of telling you that is now a live link. Now, if we click the live button, in the top left corner of Dreamweaver, there's Code, Split, Design, and Live. If you click the live button, you can now click on that link of the word that says hello, or you can't. It doesn't work on my screen. Maybe it'll work on yours. If it doesn't work, we'll just do a preview. Is it working? Okay, so let's do this. Let's preview this page. So let's go under, okay, next to the live button, there's a little globe. Click on that globe, and then choose preview in whatever browser it lists, right? So I'm going to preview mine in Google Chrome. If it says save changes, just say save. And then if it wants to save them in your folder, just say save. and then it will bring up the web page, and then go ahead and click on your word up there, and it should be a live link that takes you to Amazon.com. Now, don't buy anything, for God's sake.
I shop on this site all the time, so it was a mistake to bring it
What's that? You shop there all the time, so it took you right to your cart, probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, did that work for everybody? Is there anybody it didn't work for?
It didn't work for me. They knew that I was gonna.
John's going to help you out with that. Just kidding. Okay, give me a second here. Let me see what the problem is.
I typed that in there.
Okay, so we'll go back to.
And I did. And
Okay, it's
don't
because you have
bring it up on the computer.
it should be HTTP. You got it, right? Which one?
You have to be real careful how you type it. Everything.
Okay, go ahead.
Pitch button. Oh,
Okay, so is that making sense to you guys? That's how you make a link? Okay, now, if it doesn't work, and I'll tell you this right now, I'll have to tell you several times throughout the semester, but unfortunately, HTML is a very finicky language, and if you don't get everything exactly correct, it simply will not work. So like, if I go back to my link here, and you see how I have http://www.amazon.com? What if I forget the colon, right? And then I hit save, and then I preview it, and then I click on it. It didn't find the web page just because I missed one little letter or one little character, right? So unfortunately, this is one of those situations where user error is going to account for probably 98% of your issues. So if something doesn't work, go back, look at your spelling, look at your grammar, and by that I mean the programming grammar, and fix whatever is not correct. Now, the good news about Dreamweaver, this is what I love about Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is color-coded, okay? Notice how the href is in green, the elements of the web structure are in blue, the content is in black. You guys notice that? When you make an error, sometimes Dreamweaver will catch it and will change the color of something. And you'll see everything is pink except for this one thing that's blue, and it's just like everything else. Oh, I forgot a colon, right? So that's how it helps you identify the different parts of the web page and errors, okay? All right. Yes, question, Susan.
So, when I typed in words is my word,
Yeah.
I got this little thing, it came off on the left-hand side, but I also got this P bracket with the and sign NBSP colon.
Okay, great. So let's talk about what that is. You have a question too?
yeah, mine won't let me go put it on there.
It won't let you put.
Yeah, she's typed in the link, and I want.
Okay, so what you have to do is you type the word over here, you highlight it,
No, this one.
right? You put that down in here. Once you have the word highlighted over there, so you put an HTTP
That's what we didn't have. We didn't have
Okay.
the highlight.
//www.amazon. Oh, sorry, I screwed up. .com. Okay, then we hit enter. So now if you save that and preview it. Okay, so let's talk about what Susan got on her page and how that happened and what it means, okay? So what Susan is telling me is that she got some P's, some letter P's around her hello. Well, if I go to my hello here and I hit enter, you see, Susan, what's up on my screen?
I can see that part.
Oh, it's the same thing as what you said.
It's scanned with NBSP.
Yeah, it's paragraph and NBSP. Okay. So it's on this screen too. I don't know if that's bright enough for you to see. But anyway, let me back up and let me show you what I did to achieve that, right? So if you hit your enter button, if you click after your word hello and you hit your enter button, it automatically creates two sets of paragraph tags, okay? It creates a paragraph tag before and after the word hello, right, which turns this into a paragraph, and then it goes down and it creates a new paragraph for new content that you might type in there. Now you look at this, what's in between the paragraph tags, and it says ampersand NBSP semicolon. You're like, what did I do wrong, right? You didn't do anything wrong. Dreamweaver just dropped in a little piece of code that it thought might be helpful for you. This NBSP stands for non-breaking space. What that is it's simply a space that can be used between two words, okay? So it just creates a blank space for you in those paragraphs so that you can then add content. Now, for this to make a little more sense for you, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight this NBSP and I'm going to say, I'm going to type a phrase. Tom was a boy who lived in the woods. And I'm going to go down to the bottom of my screen. I'm going to hit the refresh button. Okay, so that NBSP was a space holder, a blank space waiting for content. As soon as I highlighted it and typed my content, it went away. So now we have two paragraphs. Hello, which we know is a link, and Tom was a boy who lived in the woods. Now, what's interesting about HTML is that it's programmed to only let you put one blank space between two words. You can only have one, right? So watch. I take my mouse, I click after the word Tom here in the code, right? Now I take my magic finger and I press the space bar. Oh, I'm going nuts. Look at that. Look at the space. There's like 30,000 spaces. Now let's go hit this refresh button. One space. There's 30,000 spaces over here, right? One space, okay? So what HTML does is it takes however much space you put in between your content, compresses it down to one space to show on the page. Now it does that in order to save memory, and it also does that because, you know, who knows what you were doing. You might have pasted code in from a bunch of different places and there might be breaks and everything in it. It's trying to help you out by compressing it all into one space between words. Now, let's say that for the sake of argument, you really actually needed more than one space, right? You were raised with a typewriter, and you have my apologies. No, I was raised with a typewriter. They're great. I love them. But let's say that you're back in the old days, and with a typewriter, when you typed a colon on a typewriter, you needed to put two spaces after it, right? That's the way that it was done. And so you're in the typewriter mindset, so you're like, you're going to change this to Tom, who was a boy who lived in the woods, right? And you're going to put a colon here, and you just can't live with the fact that there's one space there, so you're going to use something called a special character to add an additional space. That special character is ampersand NBSP semicolon. And now there's two spaces. So there's the one space that Dreamweaver and HTML gives you as a gimme, and then there's the special character you added in that adds the additional space.
That was the hand sign as well.
It's the ampersand. The ampersand is above. If you hold the shift key down and you hit the number 7.
Yeah, and sign.
Right, and then it's the letters N as in Nancy, B as in Bob, S as in Sam, and P as in Pauline. And then a semicolon. Now that we know that exists, we imagine there's a secret world where secret codes exist that can do magic things. Like when you go up to In-N-Out Burger and you say, give me a black shake or whatever, and they give you something special, right? I don't know, you guys know about those secret codes? Some of them, right? So anyway, so Dreamweaver must have a bunch of secret codes, right? Let's see if we can find them. Insert, let's see. They moved everything around, so I have no idea where the stuff is anymore. Character, yeah. So if you go to your insert menu at the top, and you come down to character, you'll see that this is a list of special characters. Non-breaking space, if you chose that, it would insert another one of these, okay? But you can also insert a special character, which will be a copyright symbol, a registered trademark, a pound sign, what's called an M dash or an N dash, which are longer dashes, right? Or you could even come down here, go ahead and choose other at the bottom, And this is really super cool. This is a list of all of the special characters that are available. And these are all the like umlauts and accent grave and all that kind of stuff. You click on any of these, and it puts in the special character, and you hit OK, and it drops that into your code. So it's kind of like Microsoft Word when it says go find a special character, and then it drops that into the code for you. Okay, so let's go back to our HTML5 tutorial here, and let's notice that the third HTML element on this page is this one right here, which is the BR, which is surrounded by the angle brackets. And what kind of a tag is that? It's a break tag, right? And that's what's referred to as a line break. Now, a paragraph will give you 2 spaces. It will go down one line and then the next. So if we go look at our Dreamweaver document here, we can see that because each of these lines is wrapped in a paragraph tag, there are 2 spaces between them. However, let me go down a little further. Let me type this. This is a line, and then let me type the BR, the break tag, and then let me type this is another line, and let me hit refresh. And notice that there's only one line that this has just been knocked down to the next line instead of being knocked down 2 lines like a paragraph tag. Okay? Once again, this is like Microsoft Word. You can single space or double space, right? Paragraphs automatically double space. Break tags, which is what the BR is, single space. Because sometimes there's a time when you need just that line to be right underneath the other line. Now, the break tag is unusual in that it is a single tag without a closing element. The break tag has a beginning but no end. Okay? And that's because you don't need an end. You don't need to say, here's where the break starts, here's where it ends. It's kind of a break. It starts and ends right there, right? There are a few tags like this out there in the wilderness in HTML. The break tag is one of them. The horizontal rule, which makes a straight line, is another one. And then the other ones, most of the other ones exist up in the header. They're called meta tags, and they're used for things like keywords and description. And there's just a single tag for those as well. Okay. How you guys doing? People falling asleep yet, or? I'm trying hard. Trying to give you a nice little rest on your Tuesday, which is actually like a Monday because we had yesterday. It is, right. Okay, we're not going to go too much longer. I'm just going to try and squeeze in a few more of these pages, and then I'll let you guys do your thing. Okay, so this next page is talking about the fact that HTML links can have what are called attributes, right? And so in this case, it's saying that the attribute is this href tag, which tells you what the link is, right? So this is an A tag, but it also has an attribute which directs you to where the link goes, right? And we know that because we just made a link. So we'll go to the next chapter, which looks like it is a restatement of what I said. It says headings are important, and then it says search engines use headings to index the structure and content of your web page. We already talked about how an H1 tag is more important than an H3 tag, right? Here is that HR or horizontal rule tag that we talked about as it's one of the tags that does not have a closing element. This is the horizontal rule tag. A rule is a line. A horizontal rule is a line that goes out horizontally. So if you want a line, you simply put HR inside a pair of angle brackets, and boom, you've got a line. Now, like I said, there's just a few more pages of this. We understand paragraphs. Let's go to this next page. And these are all really, really basic HTML functions. And these are the kind of things that you're going to learn in Chapter 2, which I'm assigning tonight, HTML basics, right? And here are some of the basic functions you can do with text. Bold text, italicized, computer output, which is sort of a Times New Roman, subscript, which is below, the line, and superscript, which is above the line, sub meaning below, super meaning above. Now, bold is used to create a boldness here. Let's go back to your Dreamweaver, click at the end of a line and hit your return button, and type a little phrase for me, like, whatever you want. The pony stepped on the carrot's head, or whatever is in your mind right now, okay? Now take any word in that line and double click on it so that it is highlighted. And remember I told you that the properties box down here will change according to whatever content you're dealing with up there. Right now we're dealing with text content, so it gives you a bunch of options for text. Go down to the left part of your properties box and click on that letter B, which stands for bold. And while you have your word highlighted, and then click off of the word, and you'll see that now the word has a turn bold. Now, who can tell me what the tag says that surrounds that word? Strong. Okay? Now, does anybody have any idea why the word strong might be there instead of bold? It's an interesting story. I don't know if it's true. In fact, I probably made it up. But the fact is this. When they first created HTML and they wanted a bold feature, they actually used the word bold. Okay? But then, as HTML got updated throughout the years, remember we're on HTML version 5 right now, which is the current version, they started becoming more inclusive of other cultures and other languages. And they realized that there were languages out there that don't have the word bold in them, right? But every language had the word strong. So they replaced bold with strong so that it would be more understandable for programmers in other languages. Okay, now let's double click on another word in the line, and then go back down to the properties box and click on the I, which is to the right of the letter B. And notice that it's now italicized, right? Now, it used to be that the letter B for bold was used to bold a word, and it used to be that the letter I was used to create italics. But for the same reason as I just mentioned, the fact that other cultures might not have a word for italics, they changed the word to emphasis, okay? Because other cultures had the fact that you might want to emphasize something, emphasis. And instead of using the whole word, they just used the first two letters, EM. So EM and NDM wrapped around a word will give you italics. Okay? So these are just this is the meat and potatoes of HTML, and believe it or not, when you walk out of this classroom, you're going to know like 98% of it. Okay, let's go to this next chapter here. This is simply referring to something called a comments tag. A comments tag is formatted with a exclamation point and 2 dashes at the beginning and 2 dashes at the end. If there is a comment on an HTML document, it will not print. In other words, it will not be displayed on a website. And so comments are for you or for anyone else who's working on the site. We're not going to get into that right now. It's just good to know. HTML hyperlinks. We already did a hyperlink, so we're going to click next chapter on that. The head elements is what we talked about that exists up there at the top of a web page, and there's a title element that will allow you to put in the title of the document. We're going to skip that because that's pretty self-sufficient, and we're done. That wasn't like too painful, right? I mean, I could keep going. You guys would hate.
You will.
Yeah, I will. We'll continue next week, but you'll get some sleep, maybe a meal in between then, right? This is where I asked you guys to stop, where we got the HTML, CSS styles. Okay, so just going back to the website for the class, just to review what the assignment is that I'm giving you guys. I'll make it nice and big and lovely here. Okay, so, and of course, I'm on the wrong page, so let's go to the correct page. So what your assignment is going to be for next week is to read chapter 2 in the book. If you don't have the book yet, make sure and get it and do chapters 1 and 2 to be caught up this week. That's HTML basics. You're going to basically review some of the stuff that we talked about today and learn a few new things, right? Whenever I assign a chapter to you, please do the exercises that are in there, and you can do that by downloading the lesson files. If you don't have the lesson files or you have a problem with your book, I have them on my computer and can give them to you on a flash drive. Also, the other thing that I would like you to do is to think up of an idea for a website that you might like to work on this semester. It can be anything you want, real or imagined, and create a mock-up of that, a homepage for that uses the wireframing idea of boxes and maybe some text and little sketched in drawings or whatever. You can use my example template as a starter point and then add a little more content for that. After you've done this, if you do it on paper, please scan it in or take a picture of it to bring into class next week so we can show them up here on the screen. If you do it digitally on Photoshop or Illustrator, please bring in a JPEG, and then I'm going to have you guys give those to me. We'll take a look at them and we'll talk about them and give you guys some constructive criticism on how to turn that into a website.
So you want us, basically, we're gonna, do a storyboard, but we're gonna elaborate throughout the year on this idea?
Yeah, so in other words, this is step 1 in a long journey, right? So you're going to make something like this, but a little more complicated than this. It's going to have some writing in here and maybe some drawings or whatever. Remember, you can do it in Photoshop and make it, more sophisticated. And this is going to be like if I were your client, right, and I said I wanted the kitty cannons, cannons that shoot kittens across the room or whatever. I want you to go make me a mock-up of that, right? You're going to come back, you're going to show me that mock-up. I'm going to say, I really like it in blue. And can you make the logo bigger and move the text over here? Okay. And then you make those changes and everything. Then I approve it, and then you go start building the page, right? So you guys are going to bring your stuff in. We're going to be the clients. We're going to talk about ways that you can, make your site more powerful. And then, every week, every assignment you do, we're going to step through the process of developing the actual web page. Okay?
So you just want to draw like an outline of it all.
Yeah, it's a storyboard. It's a wireframe. There's a bunch of different words to describe.
We're not putting in links in, he says, it's by you.
Yeah, so it's just a sketch, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. Johnny, you had a
Yeah, for some reason I'm not following the level of detail. If I were doing a website on my trip to the Grand Canyon, would I have pictures on this of the Grand Canyon, or would I have a
Okay,
statement saying,
so if our
"Here's a picture"?
right, if our positions were reversed and I had to do this work and bring it in next week and I wanted to do the Grand Canyon, I might take this Photoshop file here. I might just put in a picture of the Grand Canyon and then just write the word logo here, or write, Grand Canyon Travels, or whatever, let's say your website's gonna be a travel website. I might drop in some generic text right here to show me the text is gonna be here, and I might put in a picture of a guy in a kayak, saying, you can kayak down the whatever Hecame River, I don't know. I should know. Is it a Colorado? I should know. I know. Don't, please pretend that didn't happen. Okay, then over here I might just put some boxes that show like links, like gallery, about, contact, just show words. And then down here I might write the footer, copyright information, And I have sort of a sketch of a web page that I could show you, and you would say, okay, I understand where you're going with that. Is there a question, Chris?
Yeah, well, I forgot it, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, come back to me. Okay, other questions, comments?
That one.
Yeah, there it is.
So say we're making a website, I know every website's different, there's certain names for like selling something, and then there's websites that are just like have a cart, like you say there's a certain name for that website, and there's certain names for other ones. How is that gonna play into everybody's websites?
Okay, great question. So what we're making, remember this class, we basically look at 2 different programs. First half of the class, we're looking at Dreamweaver, which makes static websites, right? Those are the ones that just sit there and look pretty, kind of like I'm doing right now. And the second half of the semester, we're going to do dynamic websites using a program called WordPress. And those are the ones that are really cool and have photo galleries and e-commerce shopping carts and more fun than you can imagine.
Now my question.
Okay.
Should static website be converted into that?
Yes, in fact, it's an excellent question. You might have been looking ahead at the note. That's actually exactly what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to take you from Dreamweaver to WordPress. you guys are going to make a static website, and I'm glad you asked that because you guys can keep in mind when you think up your ideas for websites. If I told you, well, we're just making a static website, you might just make one that's yeah, here's my dog, and here's my dog on the floor, and here's my dog, taking a selfie, right? But if I said, hey, this website process that we're starting on, it's going to end up in WordPress, where you can make photo galleries, e-commerce, contact forms, etc. You might be much more ambitious in your plans, right? You might make a website that's selling stray dogs to scientific experiments. Okay, no. I didn't say that either, and I know what the river is. Don't talk to me about that. Okay, so so keep in mind that this is a project that's going to be developed over the whole semester, and you can make a real project. If you have some money-making plan, you're going to sell hubcaps, you're going to sell keychains. If you have a friend who has a car wash and you can make their website, if you want to make a portfolio website for yourself and your artwork, be my guest. Sky's the limit. Okay, other questions? All right, you guys are good to go. Thank you so much.